Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast here on the littleshaman.com, brought to you by Transrelational Healing, shamanspiritcenter.com, I lived with a monster.com, and littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today, I wanted to talk to you about something that most people unfortunately experience at least once in relationships with narcissists, and many people experience it repeatedly: the theater of pain. While you may have heard that phrase before, a lot of people might not know what it means. Theater of pain can refer to pain or suffering that is performed or otherwise showcased as entertainment or for the benefit of spectators, such as a situation where someone is forced to participate in or observe pain and suffering. For example, gladiator fights and their modern successors, pro wrestling, MMA, boxing, and other combat sports, are examples of what this phrase refers to: pain and suffering as a performance for gain of some kind and or for the entertainment or to create some kind of impact on other people. The witnessing of the pain of others as some kind of spectacle or entertainment has been a fixation of humans for a very long time, such as the gladiator fights we just mentioned. Most people find others falling funny, for example, provided that nobody actually got hurt. Empathy generally precludes most people from finding something funny or entertaining when someone genuinely does get injured or hurt somehow. We tend to recoil from people who find humor in legitimate pain or injury. Many times you will actually hear people say to somebody, "Are you okay?" before they laugh, because if somebody really got hurt, then it's not funny. A willingness to participate also plays a part in how people view this as well. Most people are not in favor of some kind of physically dangerous event that people are forced to participate in. When we watch combat sports, for example, we know that the people involved are following rules that will help protect them. But first and foremost, most importantly, we know that they're willing to do it. They are well aware of the risks and they have accepted those. Again, this is reflective of empathy. If someone wants to participate, then most people conclude that there's nothing immoral or wrong about being entertained by the pain and the suffering or watching it as a spectacle. They might not want to do that, they might not want to watch it, but most people don't think it's wrong to do so. In these situations, we are promised that the pain and suffering will be limited and controlled, that there is immediate medical help available, and that the performance will be stopped if it becomes too dangerous. This doesn't always work, of course. Pro wrestlers and boxers have died in the ring. Their opponents are generally not charged with any crime because this was a voluntary exercise where participants are aware that they could be seriously hurt. But what about when someone is not a willing participant, when they do not agree to participate at all in pain and suffering, either their own or the pain and suffering of others? This forced participation is the unfortunate experience of many people dealing with narcissists all over the world. Not only are they forced to endure their own constant pain and suffering when they enter the theater of pain with a narcissist, but many are often forced to witness the purported pain and suffering of the narcissist as well, and to be blamed and then punished for causing it. In the theater of pain with a narcissist, pain is just another weapon. It's just another tool. Typically, it's used as a tool for control and manipulation. The constant refrain of these relationships tends to be, stop doing this and I'll stop hurting you, and or stop doing this because you're hurting me. At no point in time is the other person's pain or suffering actually considered as a real thing. It's simply a thing leveraged as a way to control and manipulate, the way that people use a pry bar on a door that won't open. Over and over again, this same hideous performance is acted out for people to be forced to participate in, either as the one being hurt or the one being accused of causing the hurt, or both, because many times people are told that the reason they or someone else are being mistreated and punished is because they have done something to the narcissist to deserve that or to cause that somehow. This is not the experience of everyone, of course, but many, many narcissists create hugely dramatic emotional scenes. They will kick, scream, cry, engage in behavior that physically hurts themselves and or other people, threaten or even attempt to take their own lives, threaten violence against other people, display weapons. They will also disappear, give the silent treatment for weeks or even longer, freeze people out, refuse to say why they're upset, ghost other people completely. All of these things are extremely emotionally charged and emotionally dramatic for the other person, emotionally traumatic for the other person. And many times people have no idea why it's happening at all. It often happens out of nowhere or is completely out of proportion to anything that has actually occurred. These things tend to cause massive distress for people. It's confusing, it's destabilizing, it's extremely painful and upsetting, and it very often happens over and over again, no matter what people try to do to prevent it. And no matter how people try to prepare for it, the stress that this causes, especially long term, is perhaps not able to be understood by those who have not experienced it. It's barely understood by the people who do experience it. The constant pressure of being told by somebody that you are offending, upsetting, insulting, embarrassing, sabotaging, humiliating, disappointing them, and or whatever else, without ever being able to figure out how or why that's happening and then trying to prevent it but continuously failing, does something to somebody's mind. At first, it's just confusing and really, really hurtful. It's bewildering because you just want to get along with this person and you cannot figure out why it's not possible. If people are told anything about what is causing this, they're told that it's them. This often starts a long and fruitless, pointless journey into trying to correct the things that are supposedly upsetting the narcissist and causing these problems. People change their words, their tone, the way they're talking, the times they're saying things, their body language, their facial expressions, and everything else they could possibly address, only to find that it doesn't help. The narcissist still gets offended and hurt and upset and angry no matter what. It isn't a question of disagreement or moderating your opinions to match theirs. Many people find that the pathologically narcissistic person in their lives gets angry or combative even when you agree with them. They twist things so far out of reality that there's no way to predict or prevent bothering, insulting, offending, or upsetting them because it's not logical. They might get angry, insulted, and offended by things that virtually nobody else would be bothered by. They might insist that words and phrases mean things they don't mean, or that your secret evil motives are making the words mean something else, or your tone, or your body language, or the time of day that you're talking, or any of 1,000 other things that you can never anticipate because they don't make any sense in any version of reality that you or anyone else besides the narcissist are living in. People who have not dealt with narcissists don't understand what this is like. It's maddening. It's crazy making. It's torturous. It's legit insanity. And it leads to frustration on the part of victims who are given often well-meaning but unfortunately useless advice from people such as, well, why don't you just say this? Or why don't you just tell them that? And people are like, I did do that. I did all the things. You're not understanding what I'm telling you. Nothing works. The advice isn't generally meant to be harmful, of course. It's coming from a lack of understanding about the situation, but it can inadvertently reinforce the idea that this is somehow the victim's fault because they're not communicating clearly, or that it's their job to somehow prevent that from happening. After all, if the situation can be resolved by just saying or doing something simple and logical, which the victim already did 400 times, then clearly they're just not doing it right. The problem is, this is not true. Many people have already tried logic and facts. They've already tried all the things that everybody does in those situations. They're asking other people for help because they can't think of what else to do when those things don't work. Because, really, what exactly do you do in that situation? Most people have never come up against a situation where these things don't work, and many probably don't believe there even are situations where that could actually happen, where people just reject logic and discount facts completely out of hand. But there are, and most people are at a loss to deal with it when it happens because, again, what do you do when logic fails? What can you do? The answer is nothing, by the way, just to be clear. You can do nothing when logic and basic communication fail to get through to somebody. Victims are also often trying to do some reality testing on their perception of the situation by seeking input from others, because after being gaslit and turned around so constantly, people start to lose perspective. If somebody else comes along and says, well, you should just say this, or if you tell them that, this will stop, it can not only reinforce the idea that this is the victim's responsibility to fix, but when it doesn't work, because it doesn't work, it can reinforce the idea that the victim is failing at this somehow and is to blame for the problem. This tends to be exactly what narcissists are saying too. So for victims, it can seem like everywhere they turn, they're being told that this is their responsibility, and if it's not being resolved, it's on them. And of course, sometimes people are actually told that verbatim, particularly in narcissistic family systems. Well, but you know how your mother is. You just need to let that go and call her and get over it. Or he's your brother and you need to fix this for the family and for me. The unrelenting pressure of this constant messaging, on top of the hurt, confusion, and continuous inability to resolve or even address the situation, is incredibly stressful and distressing for people, especially because this isn't always something that just happens sometimes. For so many people dealing with narcissists, this is not episodic in the sense that it happens every few weeks or every few months. This is a daily experience. It happens every day. The misunderstandings, the offended self-righteous lectures, the blame, the shame, the over-the-top emotional performances are every single day for so many people, sometimes multiple times a day. And worst of all, these things often just blow up out of nowhere. There is very often no way to prepare for it or to prevent it from happening once it's ignited either. It's like a fuse being lit on a stack of dynamite, but the fuse is one of those trick birthday candles that's not going out. There is no way to course correct or divert the coming disaster, and no way to get out of the blast radius either. All you can do is just sit there and watch it burn down until it explodes, knowing what's coming and knowing you can't do anything about it because it's already too late. This is a foregone conclusion. That is extremely destabilizing for people. It's like being in a war zone where a bomb can drop on you any second. People cannot relax. They can become extremely stressed out from dealing with this, especially over time. Their bodies become stuck in an activated state where they are always anticipating a threat, always on high alert, making it very hard to function on a day-to-day basis. Thinking becomes confused, distracted, foggy, difficult. Physical health suffers enormously under these conditions as well. Everything from hair loss to gastrointestinal upset to autoimmune disorders and much more. But the worst part is the pain. The use of the concept of the theater of pain here is not an accident, it's not a coincidence. That is what these relationships are. They are just exercises in and exhibitions of pain. And whether it's your own or the narcissist or somebody else's, you are damaged by it. Witnessing someone else's extreme emotional distress is very stressful and upsetting for people. Worse, being constantly told that you are the one causing that distress is just as upsetting to most people as their own pain, especially when it's someone they care about. That's not an accident. Being constantly told that you are a terrible person who is harming other people, and that's not only why they are in agony, but why they're harming you or other people, is a special kind of hell. Because not only is it painful, not only is your character being unfairly maligned, you are being blamed and punished for something you did not do, and you would never do. The frustration and the unfairness and injustice that people feel in these situations is off the charts. Perhaps even worse, it also creates the idea that if you could just make the narcissist understand that they've gotten your intentions and your character wrong, this would all stop. People can become overly invested in proving to the narcissist that they're a good person, a trustworthy person. This can even become an obsession for people, and that's very sad because the reality is that there's no true possibility of it ever happening. People try so hard to do something they have absolutely no chance of ever succeeding at. This is an issue inside of the narcissist. It's their problem. It has nothing to do with anything anybody else is doing or not doing. They are blaming it on you, yes, but if you really had any power over this part of the situation, all the things that you did to resolve it would have worked. For example, if your words really were the issue, changing them would have solved the problem. If your tone really was the problem, changing it would have changed the situation. but none of it worked. And that's all the proof you need that this is not within your ability to change. This person does not trust other people. They are singularly, even delusionally biased in the negative, and they believe that everyone's out to get everybody else. You cannot prove to them that this is not true because the possibility of that reality does not even exist in their world. They cannot see what you're trying to show them, period. It is what it is. You're trying to describe the color blue to a person who has been blind for their entire life. They have absolutely no frame of reference through which to understand what you're talking about. To them, it just sounds like a fairy tale or a joke. As an aside, people often say that the narcissist emotional episodes are phony and contrived. Some of them definitely are. Others are definitely not. These are desperately unhappy, confused, miserable people. They are also manipulative, deceitful, power-hungry people. Either way, though, being exposed to this emotional trauma all the time is bad for you, whether it's genuine or not. The impact on you is the same regardless. This is something that's really important to understand. People often want to know how they can tell if it's real or not real, and when is it genuine and when isn't it. The reality is you cannot know, regardless of what anybody might tell you, and spending too much time on trying to figure this out is actually distracting and unhelpful. Because the reality also is, it doesn't even matter. It really doesn't. Whether someone is as cataclysmically dysregulated as many narcissists appear to be, or whether they're just using the appearance of that to manipulate you, it's dangerous and harmful to be exposed to that all the time, regardless. So, just so there's no misunderstanding, let's be very, very clear. Whether it's genuine or not, whether the narcissistic personality can control this behavior or not, does not matter. You cannot help them either way, and it's dangerous to be exposed to this for any length of time. This is not okay. This is an unpopular reality sometimes. Many people will insist that almost anything someone does is understandable or even okay if they have trauma or some kind of trauma-related reason for it. This is bullshit. It is absolutely not true. You have trauma, and it would not be okay for you to behave that way, and it's not okay for anybody else. You're not obligated to deal with someone else's trauma like that. This is their work. This obligatory suffering narrative where people martyr themselves for someone else's pain and problems causes enormous suffering for people. And in the end, everyone finds out the same thing. It didn't even help the narcissist anyway. All it did was create more suffering. Not having boundaries around allowing this kind of behavior in our lives is a mistake. Being exposed to this all the time is harmful. It's dangerous mentally, emotionally, physically. It tends to cause severe anxiety for people. The situation feels unsafe and unstable all the time, which can be extremely, exceedingly stressful. It can cause self-doubt, an inability to trust other people or yourself, emotional exhaustion from trying to manage or respond to these constant emotional upheavals and problems and traumas and dramas, erosion of boundaries, emotional dysregulation in yourself. Narcissists are not the only people who can be emotionally dysregulated, of course. It can happen to anybody. And narcissists actually tend to cause emotional dysregulation in other people as well, which comes as no surprise. How could being exposed to this behavior all the time not cause emotional dysregulation in people? However, most people don't use that as an excuse to avoid accountability for their behavior. They don't go around punishing other people for that or using it as an excuse to treat other people badly. They don't think their feelings are the only thing in any situation that matters. If their behavior or their emotional dysregulation impacts other people, they feel badly about that. They don't want to hurt other people. They would like to address the problem. They want to fix it. Narcissists believe their emotional dysregulation, your emotional dysregulation, everybody's behavior, the entire thing is the other person's responsibility. You caused it, you own it, you fix it. They don't have to do anything because the whole thing is being done to them. They're just reacting to you and what you've done to them. If you don't like that, you shouldn't have done whatever the thing you did that caused them to have a bad feeling. That's it. Their involvement in the whole thing is completely passive, the way that they interpret it. They have not acted, but have been acted upon. They had no choice in anything, and they're not responsible for anything. It's all you. Now, that might sound benign to some people or even sort of silly, like, yeah, they blame everybody else, big whoop. But it's actually really dangerous to interact with people who don't feel responsible for anything they do, especially when they are so dysregulated, like so many narcissists really are. Someone like that could be capable of anything because they don't feel that it's them doing it, or they don't feel as if they have any control over what they're doing. I'm just reacting to you. That's a pretty dangerous mindset for a grown adult to have, especially if they also think other people are actively trying to harm them, which narcissists very often do. These kinds of persecutory delusions, coupled with the absolute certainty that they're not responsible for any of their actions or reactions, creates a very dangerous situation. People who think you're trying to harm them might decide to harm you first, or in, quote, retaliation for something they think that you've done. That's the dynamic with narcissists. Someone is always getting hurt no matter what. Whether it's you or them or somebody else, someone is getting hurt, and you can rest assured that it will always eventually be you, because they do not allow insult or injury to go unanswered. The fact that you might not even know what it is they think you've done to them does not matter. The fact that hurting them or insulting them was not your goal doesn't matter either. What matters is that you're not getting away with it. They will make sure of that. To interact with narcissists is to enter into the theater of pain. Yours, theirs, somebody else's. It doesn't even matter, because regardless, you will be exposed to constant pain and suffering. And this will work on you. It will work on your mind until it completely changes you. It will be performed for you, it will be performed on you, it will be performed around you, and it does not stop, because that's all these personalities know. This is very sad to many people, but it's important to remember there's nothing you can do about it except exit the situation if you don't want to be a part of it. The performance is not really for you anyway in the end. This is a slow motion murder-suicide of a person who is at war with themselves. It's auto-cannibalism, and you don't have to watch it. It's better for you if you don't, because there's nothing you can do to stop it. You can only get sucked into this person's self-destructive vortex as they destroy everything good around them before finally destroying themselves, often literally. No one should be forced to witness that, and you do not have to. They hate you for claiming to care about them, and they will try to destroy you for that if you let them. Don't. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype and Zoom for clients worldwide. So if you are interested in speaking with me one-on-one about this or anything else, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I have several books out for publication, so if you are interested in getting a copy of any or all, you can do that on littleshaman.org, or you can find them on amazon.com. I teach workshops, clinics, and more, so if you're interested in seeing what we are running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. And if you are interested in joining our support group with access to exclusive content, weekly support meetings, and more, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast, brought to you by Transrelational Healing, shamanspiritcenter.com, ilived-with-a-monster.com, and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.
If you've been struggling through dealing with or recovering from an unhealthy relationship with a narcissist or other toxic personality, the Little Shaman has a catalog of over 500 YouTube videos designed to support your journey from discovery to recovery. You can also find additional resources on the Little Shaman website, including tools, courses, workshops, a support group with weekly meetings, and one-on-one appointments with the Little Shaman that are open to clients worldwide. There's even an AI chatbot built and trained exclusively by the Little Shaman using her work that can answer questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For more information, visit littleshaman.org. You can listen to The Little Shaman wherever you find your favorite podcasts.